Hello everyone, Leader Dorset Spur here, back with another video. This time I'm here to talk about the win versus Southampton on Sunday. Lucky enough to be at the game yesterday, met up with some good friends. South Dorset Spurs travelled up and actually took two minibuses full, so 36 people went up to watch the game, which is pretty mad when you consider the form that Spurs are in and how we're playing. For that amount of people to actually commit to turning up and supporting the team. But overall, we had a good day. It's not always just about the 90 minutes. To be fair, we had a nice bit of breakfast in the Gilpin and a few beers in LTs and so on, and had a nice a bit of music on the way home. Obviously, being very happy that we managed to get a win. Feels like an eternity, to be honest with you, where we picked up a win in the Premier League. And it was good to have a bit of a strange game, to be honest with you, because it didn't really feel like that there was the intensity that you would like to think that you're going to get. Bearing in mind Southampton are playing to avoid relegation, and Tottenham are playing to build momentum for the upcoming match in the Europa League. So you kind of would have felt like there'd have been a lot more kind of real intent and so on, but it didn't feel like that. It felt a little bit of a damp squib, if I'm being honest. I think Southampton probably already, they already had it in their minds that they're going to get relegated, so they kind of resigned to it really. And from our point of view, maybe the players are being a little bit careful considering we've got a big game coming up on Thursday. So maybe there was a little bit of that, but I didn't feel at any point that we were really in trouble during the game. And I've got to say, bearing in mind that Southampton are the earliest team to be relegated in the Premier League, I didn't think they looked too bad. Like in terms of their overall play, I didn't think they looked too bad. They didn't look dire. I think they were trying to play football. They were trying to attack, and that's probably where their biggest problem comes from. Is the fact that they're too open to that. But yeah, a bit of a really strange one. Not too much controversy in the game. A couple of little bits that we probably ought to talk about. But let's talk about the first goal. Brennan Johnson does what Brennan Johnson does, and what he does bring to the team, which kind of does get overlooked because the biggest criticism of him is that he doesn't do enough other than arrive at the back post late to get a goal. Now, arriving late at the back post to get a goal is something that nobody else is doing. So it's really useful that he is doing that, because if he wasn't doing it, we'd be something like 16 goals worse off this season. So yeah, it was a bit of a strange one because he gets the nod over Odebear, fair enough, because he played on Thursday. Needed a bit more freshness and so on. But his first goal was absolutely brilliant. It was really well worked, from back to front. Quick, fast, incisive passing, late arrival at the back post, buried it, no problem whatsoever. Really good goal to see, and exactly what you think of when you think about Ange Ball and Ange Postecoglou's way of playing football. It's that sort of fast, quick movement, from back to front. So it's disappointing that we're not doing that quickly enough and often enough, and that's why we're ended up in the situation that we're in. So yeah, great credit to the team for that, because I think it was something like 30 odd minutes the game had been going on, and before that we scored that goal. So you could feel a little bit of tension and a little bit of mood going. This is Southampton. We are expecting to beat them. We are sitting 16th, and this makes all the difference in terms of where you end up in the year. Not looking over your shoulder and so on. Bearing in mind we've got Wolves to play, and they were like 2 points behind us. So it kind of felt like one that you really needed to win. So yeah, I was really happy to see that. Of course, when the second goal goes in, Bergvall, again, really good goal, really good goal. Scoring that, And then, of course, you're back to the Ange Postecoglou's biggest complaint at the moment around VAR and the fact that you're sitting there for 5 minutes waiting for a decision for an offside. Now, I've said it before, I'll say it again. For me, this offside thing is just so tight. It's just too tight. I cannot believe that by having your back to goal slightly, a hair's breadth further forward than a defender gives you any benefit in terms of getting to that ball quicker. That is not what offside was about. Offside was about stopping players goal hanging around there and just tapping it in because there's no one around them to tackle them. So for me, it just ruins the whole game. I just don't see the point of it. And I said it after the Chelsea game because they had one disallowed for a toenail, and you think to yourself, that's just nonsense. I just don't get it. I understand the need for football to be to get these decisions correct, but at the same time, it shouldn't take the time it takes to get to that. And I think that's the biggest complaint that Ange Postecoglou is kind of making. And I know no one's, there's lots of people that are really Ange out now. They've really got it in for him regardless. But you have to kind of take some of his comments and think about whether you agree with it or not. If it was someone else making that point, would you agree with it, as opposed to your bias about how disappointing football's been under Ange? And I think he's absolutely spot on. It shouldn't take 5 minutes. It's a clear and obvious error. So what's the linesman doing nowadays? What's the point of them if they're not going to give offside? What is the point of it? If they're relying on someone looking at a screen, drawing lines and so on, and that's going to make all the difference and give them an easy out of jail. I just think it's pointless. And I know that we've got this semi-automated offside thing coming, which ideally makes things quicker. That's what they're saying. It's going to make things quicker. There's some kind of sensor in the ball and cameras around that are measuring players at key points, so that it will always measure the defending player against the furthest forward attacking player to see whether they were in an offside position. But for me, I just think it depends on how far forward you are. Me personally, I'd much rather see daylight. I'd much rather be to a point where you go, there's daylight between the two players. If there's daylight between the two players, then he's offside. If there's not daylight between the two players, he should be onside. The argument always was, if you were level, you were on. That's not the case these days. It's definitely not the case these days, because that one for Bergvall, he was onside. It's just too tight to call. And in fact, that it takes 5 minutes to work that out says to me that it's too tight to call. So another VAR controversy, another complaint, another something else for us to kind of talk about. But of course, we go on and score again. Brennan Johnson getting his second of the game. Well deserved, well worked. He gets the ball in there and that's it. And at that point, I felt like the game was won. It is won. It's one of those. And you really want them to kind of go on and really, put them to the sword. But of course, we have got important games to come, and I didn't feel like they were really, really threatening too much. Of course, the second half we were not, and I think Ange called it out as well, we were not as good as we were in the first half. We sat back a lot, or we didn't keep up that intensity and push for even more. And it then let Southampton in for a goal that sets you up to be a little bit more. I'm not worried, but a little bit more like, oh, here we go again. Is this going to turn out? Are we going to be Spursy, Dr. Tottenham, and all that sort of malarkey? And are we going to end up going down the same road of ending up sort of not getting what we want out of this game? And but no, in the end, Brennan Johnson again gets brought down in the box, and it's a penalty kick. Now there's been a little bit of churn about this as well, because obviously Brennan Johnson is on a hat-trick, and so he would obviously want to take that penalty to get that hat trick. The ball was taken off of him by Porro, who gave it to Romero, and Romero gave it to Matisse Tell. Now, okay, let's think about it. Let's try and be a little bit level-headed about it. Brennan Johnson can score goals. We know he can score goals, but he's playing as a winger. Matisse Tell, new to the club, trying to find his feet, under a little bit of criticism. He's the striker, playing as the striker. You kind of see where I'm going with it. I think, and that's part of Romero's leadership and decision making in that. You've got to do what's best for the team, not necessarily best for Brennan Johnson or for an individual. It would be nice for Brennan Johnson to get a hat-trick. Of course it would. But what if he misses it? You know, what if he doesn't put it in the back of the net? It's not his role, generally speaking, to score penalties. The main person who scores penalties or goes for penalties is the striker. Matisse Tell is the striker. It kind of makes sense for him to go for it. Now, I saw from the video both Porro and Romero both went over and spoke with Brennan Johnson. And Brennan Johnson did go over and celebrate with Tell scoring the goal. And that's the important thing. Ultimately, Brennan Johnson has got 2 goals in the game. Tell has got a goal, which gets him off to a start, helps his confidence and so on. Overall, it helps the team, secures the win, and you move on from it. I'm sure Brennan Johnson will have more opportunities to score penalties, to score hat-tricks in his career. And I don't think this was the one that was going to make the difference. I know everyone's kind of going, oh, you know, he should have had it. We'd give him the hat-trick and blah, blah, blah. It would have been good for him. Stop being sentimental. Stop being sentimental about it. This is about scoring the goal. You know, who's the most likely to score the goal? The striker. That's what they're trained to do. That's their position. That's what they do. And if Tell is playing as the striker, that's what he should do. He should take the penalty. He should score the goal. That's what's important. It's important for the team and the club, not necessarily what's important for Brennan Johnson. So that's kind of me trying to put a level-headed approach to it and to kind of give a different opinion. So I mean, overall, there wasn't masses to talk about in this game. It wasn't a title decider or anything like that. It wasn't anything kind of amazing from our point of view. But what it does do is it gives a few people some minutes on the pitch. It gives you the opportunity to get another win under your belt, help you move up the table and build on some momentum. We've got other games to play, so there's still games to play, which could give us an opportunity to climb even further out of it and get a little bit more, kudos or whatever. Whether that happens or not, that's another matter. But ultimately, what you want to do is build on the result. You want to win, and then that leads you into Thursday. Hopefully, get another win. Takes you to the weekend to get another win. Leads you to the next game, get you another win, and that takes you into the semi-finals of the Europa League. And you're kind of building your momentum because we need some. All our players are back from injury pretty much. The only one really missing is Kulu, who's a real miss for us. But yeah, so for me, I just think, we've got to keep going till the end of the season. I want the players to keep putting the effort in. There's no point going down the beach yet. You've still got work to do. I listened to some of the comments after the game from Postecoglou about the midfield and about how much better Maddison was and Bentancur was. I'm not sure I 100% agree with him on that. I'm still concerned about. I think Maddison was better. He was better, but he's playing against Southampton as opposed to Chelsea, and it's the games against Chelsea that I want to see him step up. I know he can do it against Southampton, but that's not the games where it's important. The important ones are Frankfurt on Thursday. Are you going to be up for it against Frankfurt on Thursday? That's where you really need to shine. I'm not worried about whether you can do it against Southampton. I do think he was right about Bergvall. I thought Bergvall had another really decent game. but I didn't agree that he looked leggy on Thursday. I didn't see that. I didn't see it from that point of view. But of course, he's got the medical people behind him. The plan was only to give him 60 minutes against Chelsea, because he'd not played over the international break. He'd missed some football, and he'd been suffering with a virus. So these are the things we don't always know everything about, and we kind of boo the decision to take him off because he'd been playing well. But actually, is that part of the reason why he gets taken off, is to protect him, to make sure he's going to be okay for the games coming up. And this is always the difficult bit, right? That you have to kind of get your head around. You may not always agree with the decisions the coaches make, but they've got more information about it than we have. So it's a real difficult one. It's a real difficult one for sure. I know we're all frustrated with Postecoglou about, how things are going, and none of us want to be sitting in 16th position in the league and all that. But at the same time, I'm willing for this to work, for us to get some momentum, to win the Europa League, to really give us something to cling on to, because then you get Champions League or Champions League money and so on. Will that push us ahead or not? And the only reason I'm saying this is because I'm concerned about, once Postecoglou's gone, who's coming in, and are we going to be in the same boat 18 months down the road? I just can't bear this continued bloody cycle. It just frustrates the hell out of me. I'm not saying that Postecoglou's the one, but there's got to be a time where you put your marker down and say, right, this is it. This is where we're going. So I'm just not sure that they're ready to do that, or bow to the pressure. And talking of pressure, it was good to see the big turnout for the Change for Spurs march. Lots and lots of people there. I'm sure you've seen loads and loads of videos about it. I know I have. I saw a couple of the guys that were involved in it, and fair play to them. Brian Daigle coming all the way over from Toronto, fair play to him, to be involved. So yeah, I'm not sure what difference it will really make, if it will really make a difference. I hope so. But I think fans are entitled to make their feelings known to the owners, to the club, to the players and everything else. I mean, bear in mind, like from my point of view, I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning, didn't get home until 9 o'clock at night just to go and see a football game, right? And I'm not sure that the owners and the players and the management and that realise the effort that fans put into to do this stuff. I was expecting there to be a lot more chanting in the stadium. From where I was, there was a couple of occasions where there was some chanting about wanting Daniel Levy out and so on, but on the whole, it didn't feel too much like that. There was a lot of flags, but it was just individuals with flags, rather than the mass of flags, which I was expecting, because I think they were giving some away. Whether they had lots of them or not, I'm not sure. But there were some big banners around and everything, so the issue's not going away. But let's say, fair play to all those that are involved in it. It's their right to protest. It's their right to have their say, and I applaud them for putting that effort in. So, yeah, a good plug for them, and fair play to them. So kind of that's it really. I don't really have too much more to say about the match than that. But I'll be back tomorrow night at 19:30 with the Essex boys to talk about the game, to talk about the upcoming Europa game and everything else Tottenham related. So if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you don't subscribe to the channel, please do consider doing that, because it doesn't cost you anything and it helps the channel out massively. And if you're at a loose end on Tuesday at 7:30 and there's nothing on the telly, if you've had enough of Emmerdale and all the rest of it, come over, come and say hello. Talk in the comment section, let us know that you're there, and we'll be good to have you on board. But until then, thanks for watching, and up the Spurs.